Hey loves, welcome to this episode of Response and React. I'm your relationship coach, Jay Now, and I want to get into it. Let's talk about the dark side of what people like to call relationship humor, because recently actress Kristen Bell posted something deeply unsettling. A quote from her husband, actor Dax Shepard, who said, "I could kill you. I'd never do it, but I'm highly incentivized to." And she shared it publicly, framing it like an anniversary joke. Now, if you've ever laughed at something or laughed it off that actually made your stomach drop, you understand why this isn't funny. It's familiar. What looks like humor is often emotional control dressed up as personality. And when a man jokes, air quotes, about harming you, humiliating you, or undermining you, that's not love. That's a threat delivered with a smile. This isn't just about Kristen and Dax. It's about every woman who's been conditioned to normalize verbal violence to protect her partner's image instead of her own peace.
I have this very weird mix of not thinking I'm good looking, general low self-esteem, chip on my shoulder that I'm dumb because I was dyslexic, all these things. Yet, unbridled arrogance in relationships. I've always been that way.
Really?
I don't know how to explain it. I've always felt very confident in relationships. So I never, ever was like, oh, I hope I can keep Kristen. I was going, do I want to be with a Christian who has 8 people living in her house for free, who has to get out of a car when there's a dog that doesn't have a leash and ruin her whole day to rescue this dog? Do I want to be? That's great, she's good, but that's not what I want.
Besties, let's talk about the neon red flags that are Dax Shepard, because I am shooketh. And Mutual spoke about this, so I'm piggybacking off her. He did a podcast with Kelly Clarkson, and he gives her this weird, creepy, wild scenario. Like, say she's obsessed with Matt Damon. He comes over, they have cocktails, he's passed out on the couch. And of course, to Dax, the first thing you would do is start stripping that person down. Kelly immediately and the co-hosts are like, no. Like, women, like, that's not the way we think. We're not attracted to the passed out guy on the couch. And then he talks about, like, well, you know, just take off the pants. They're tight. It's all defendable. And basically says, now this guy you really like's all exposed on the couch and you're just going to sit and you're just going to look for a while, sort of vibe. And, you know, Kelly rightly says that this tells us more about you than it does anyone else. Not to mention the weird Casey Affleck podcast he did, but it reminds me of when she talks about the fact that they have these blackouts and fights.
Thing with Kristen Bell. I don't think that she's with Dax Shepard because she's just so insecure and doesn't think she could do better. Based on everything that I have seen about Kristen Bell, she wants to rescue everybody. Like, she wants to rescue everybody, everything, animals, kids, people. Like, that's her vibe. Like, she has like a savior complex. I think she also has a lot of mothering energy. It was a clip of an interview with Dax Shepard where he was talking about how he was like so cocky about relationships when he was younger, that when he first kind of started seeing Kristen, he was kind of like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to be with somebody like Kristen who's so good and generous, and somebody who will see like a wounded animal on the side of the road and have to pull over and stop and help. I think not realizing that like he is the wounded animal that she's trying to rescue. Like, that's why she's with him. Like, she's with Dax Shepard because he's the broken boy that she wants to rescue and save. Like, and I think Kristen's in on this. Like, I don't think that she's just like, oh, I don't think I deserve better, so I'm gonna put up with this. I really think that she feels like she can love him enough to heal him. Like, they even made a reference to, in the podcast interview they did together, where she made some comment about rescuing animals, and he's like, oh, you rescue everything, and it's like, including him. Like, she's trying to rescue him. I think she's in on it. Like, I think she knows he's flawed. I don't think she sees him as perfect. I don't think she's putting him up on a pedestal. I think she wants to rescue him.
The biggest mistake Kristen Bell ever made was cool girling her way into this terrible marriage. She was a victim of the early 2000s cool girl epidemic, and now she is a victim of this horrible, horrible man. Worst part about it is that she has brainwashed herself into not only thinking that their relationship is good, but also trying to normalize it, even play it off as a good romantic thing that her husband said this to her. On their 12th wedding anniversary, I'm sure you all have already seen it, and a lot of commentary has been made about it, But I'm here to zoom out a little because the cool girl epidemic, it's gonna come back around, I'm predicting, in about the next 5 to 10 years. I'll get into that, but let's read the post first. She says, happy 12th wedding anniversary to the man who once said to me, I would never unalive you. A lot of men have unalived their wives at a certain point. Even though I'm heavily incentivized to unalive you, I never would. To understand why any sane person would think, say, let alone post the entire world something like this, you need to understand that this really was an epidemic of the worst kind in the early 2000s, which is when myself and a lot of other young women were going through their formative years, like their frontal lobe formative years. I can actually trace it back to one exact moment in time, okay? Again, if you're a woman my age, you know exactly what is behind me right now. You don't recognize this beautiful young lady. This is Megan Fox in the first Transformers movie. This was the beginning of the cool girl archetype. Absolutely took the young men in America and probably all over the world by absolute storm. The amount of lockers that had a Megan Fox poster, the teenage boys' rooms that was covered in Megan Fox posters. This sent a very loud and clear message to young women. You need to be more like Megan Fox. Okay? Guys don't want women that are going to make them like chase after them and make them pay on dates and want men to buy them nice things, etc. Unsurprisingly came out right around the Great Recession of the early 2000s and persisted till right about 2015, 2016. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's when we started sort of calling it out more and more. Then there was the movie Gone Girl that absolutely subverted this stereotype and kind of exposed it for what it is, which is really just the other side of the trad wife coin. Let's talk about that. Because as much as they wanted us to pretend like it was, this was not a sign of female liberation or even empowerment. This was another performance for the male gaze. I guess Kristen Bell really made it her mission to become the poster girl for the cool girl. During this time, a lot of young women became convinced that they would become irresistible to men if they just stuck to this performance of not like the other girls. Drinking beer with the guys, laughing at their crass jokes, talking about how hypersexual you are, especially when you're in a relationship, talking about how you're down to have threesomes, do all sorts of taboo things in bed, watch porn while you have sex, all that kind of stuff. When all we have is empowerment, there's always the temptation amongst the marginalized class to become a class traitor. Because really the problem is that not only are we contending against men, and empowerment keeps the patriarchy intact, right? So not only do we have men to contend against, we also have sort of class traitors and women that will operate within that oppressive system in a way that ultimately betrays other women. That was the whole point of the Not Like Other Girls movement. It was to set yourself apart from other women as though you are not in the same oppressed class, as though you can actually approximate yourself to the power of men. And by being just like one of the guys, you can avoid the fate of the wives that men cheat on with the cool girls. And in case you didn't know, I actually have a podcast, and we just did a whole episode this week about this very phenomenon. And not enough of you know that I have a podcast. Please go check it out. I'll tag it down here. I'm really hoping you guys will check out the full episode. So where the trad wife says, I'll earn love by serving you, the cool girl says, I'll earn love by being effortless for you. And the danger here is that both of these are just performances around the male gaze and for the ultimate male comfort. At women's expense. It's always at women's expense. And so Kristen Bell definitely came up and became famous around this cool girl era. There was so much media messaging around this, including movies like Something About Mary, the aforementioned Transformers movie. I'm a cool but hot nerd who eats pizza and drinks beer. That was very much the era that we were living in. So when she first got together with Dax Shepard, everybody, the media was eating this up because she made her living off of being the quirky girl who's just like one of the guys, and everybody loved them together. They loved how real she was and how down to earth she was. even more so, they loved that Dax Shepard was like this imperfect character. He was deeply flawed. He was kind of chaotic. And the two of them were just like this couple that really met the moment. And Dax's whole archetype was the puzzle piece to the cool girl puzzle piece. Again, culturally, he would be resistant to the relationship. He would be resistant to commitment, resistant to marriage. He's a bad boy that rides motorcycles and has open relationships and all this stuff. This is all factual. Like, I'm not making this up. This is all factual. They dated for 3 years, were engaged for 3 more years before finally getting married. And his commentary on marriage was like, I never want to get married because then what leverage do you have left? So he was very much that bad boy archetype. And Kristen Bell was supposed to be the cool girl that sort of met and like tamed and pacified him, gave him babies, and just became like one of his like appendages, one of his personality traits or whatever. They had a very tumultuous relationship. They talk about it all the time. They in fact have had several like really uncomfortable conversations, podcast episodes or whatever, where it was kind of like, are you guys okay? They're one of those like marriage is really hard couples, but we fight through it every day. We wake up and fight for our marriage, but it's so hard, and like you guys have no idea how hard it is, etc. The conclusion is always, oh well, you know, it's messy but it works. It's rough around the edges, but it's like a diamond in the rough. This was supposed to be relatable to a lot of people, and at the time it was, because a lot of women were embracing this cool girl archetype and sort of trying to perform for men that way, and men were taking advantage of that because there was this idea that became normalized that emotional dysregulation and I guess turbulence is kind of the price of passion, the price of happiness, the price of true love. But the quiet part of that is that it's the woman's job to manage it. Once again, just like the trad wife perfects being submissive and sort of calibrates herself to walk on eggshells around a man's like feelings and frustrations, needs and wants, etc. The cool girl does the exact same thing, except for it's presented as chill and not as submission. But they are the same exact thing. You are still never supposed to be too much for the man to handle. You're never supposed to really challenge him on anything. You're never supposed to make him feel like he's not enough. Never supposed to ask him to put forth any effort, really at all. He's just supposed to do whatever he wants, and then you're just supposed to deal with it. That's the trap of the cool girl. It's the same as the trap of the trad wife. You're expected to build your entire identity around being understanding, around being flexible, endlessly patient, endlessly forgiving. This is once again especially dangerous when it comes to men like Dax Shepard, who has no problem saying the quiet part out loud that he's a terrible person and that he's like a work in progress, and he's open about all of his issues and open about never wanting her in the first place, nagging her and all this stuff. And you're supposed to take all that shit on the chin. You're supposed to like sit there and smile and nod along as your husband talks about how he didn't want to cast you in his movies and how he purposely wrote these like weird parts for you that were basically nagging in disguise, or him outing you for wanting to impress him, how he wasn't really even into that. God forbid, a gorgeous, successful woman, one of the most wanted young women of her time, like God forbid she wants to hang out with you, a loser with a slew of issues and bad decisions. But the cool girl mentality tricked women into judging their value based on how they adapt to male volatility. It's another iteration of that's my man and I'm gonna stick beside him. I'm gonna be there for him through thick and thin. I'm a ride or die. Same exact thing. Cool girl is not actually cool. She's a performance. She exists to garner male validation. And it's interesting how many people are like criticizing this marriage and acting as if it's like uniquely toxic. Meanwhile, we're living in this trad wife moment at the same time where we talk about divine femininity and your soft girl era and the I'm just a girl. And I don't want to work under a fluorescent light. I don't want to drive to the office every day, etc. Because all of this is a performance for the male gaze. And the reason that it changes and it seems like this pendulum like keeps swinging every couple years is because men don't actually know what they want. They just want control over women. Like, anytime that we get too comfortable actually like liberating ourselves from these roles and demanding not just empowerment but liberation, men just move the goalposts. And they're like, no, if you want love, if you want partnership, you're gonna have to be like this. One side of the coin where you're like sexually liberated and you're into threesomes and you want to drink beer with the guys and you eat corn dogs and whatever. Or we're going to move the goalpost to, now we don't want these independent women. We don't want these women with degrees. We don't want the women that try to be like men. We want feminine women, okay? We don't care for your independence. We don't want masculine women. We want feminine women, and women who have been raised with the idea that romance is the most valuable endeavor that they will ever commit themselves to, fall for it every single time. The problem really is that these men don't even like themselves. That's why they don't like any version of you. You know, that's why they always take advantage of these women who seemingly like bend over backwards, who already give them too much leeway, who are way out of their league. What they're really afraid of is facing themselves. This is why they hate successful women. This is why they hate submissive women. This is why they hate the cool girls. It doesn't matter. It's because they hate themselves. A lot of these men are actually hopelessly narcissistic. Dax Shepard might actually be a full-blown narcissist. He will take any chance to shit on his wife, to nag her, embarrass her, humiliate her, etc. It's because he feels humiliated just by being next to her. She is everything that he could never be. She's actually effortlessly quirky, effortlessly likable, effortlessly lucky. All of these things fucking piss him off because he is a never-ending work in progress. He just keeps laying all of his burdens on the shoulders of this poor woman. And this is what performing for the male gaze will attract. Narcissistic men. Men who want to see themselves and their desires reflected in women over and over and over again at those women's expense. This is their payback to the fact that cannot and will not be held down by the patriarchy as a whole. Yes, a lot of us succumb to it. Yes, a lot of us are victims of it. Yes, a lot of us pay for the price of the patriarchy with our lives, and yet the vast majority of us have not been broken, ruined, or debased, or made irrelevant by the patriarchy, because the patriarchy actually needs us more than it needs men. It needs our labor, our creativity, our ingenuity, our flexibility, adaptability, cooperation, all of those things. The patriarchy actually doesn't need like anything really from men other than their violence, other than the threat of that. That's why they love to make us perform. They love to put that peer pressure on us of like, you're not cool unless you're this. Men want this, not this. It's about time that we actually become liberated and realize that nobody that wants us to perform in a certain way is actually for us or actually loves us in any way, shape, or form. Anyone who's gonna embrace the role of being like your project or someone you have to always walk on eggshells around, like anytime you have a moment of recognition or success or anything, they're just there to remind you that like, you'll never be good enough for me though. That's really how Dax Shepard acts with Kristen Bell. He hates himself and therefore he hates her. That's really all there is to it. Hope this helps. Once again, please check out my podcast. I love y'all. Have a great day. Godspeed.
Are we finally ready to talk about Dax Shepard? Because I have been calling out this man since 2023 and I received unbelievable pushback. I'm going to link those videos in a playlist, but let me summarize what we knew even then. Dax Shepard decided he had a lot to say about Taylor Swift. Specifically, he didn't get why Taylor Swift gets to just sleep around and date whoever she wants when men like John Mayer are treated like they're predators. Listen to this.
I have zero judgment of her. I totally understand her. Yeah. I think it's weird that if a guy does it, he's a predator. If she does it, it's endearing.
But who's saying who's a predator? John Mayer?
A lot of people. Yeah, I think if a male does that in public right now, they're in trouble. Our boy that we had on from fucking Succession, he's getting blasted because he fucks a lot of people. I mean, truly, that's like, he can't go fuck a bunch of people. You think right now in our current culture, a guy can fuck a ton of women and be out loud about it and not be looked at poorly.
No, I think if you are being disrespectful to women, if you're just like having sex, hey, leave, and then the next day you have sex with another person, hey, leave, and you're having it, yes, I do think that is looked down upon now, and it wasn't always.
No. I like that Taylor does what she's doing. All I'm saying is I don't know why we're saying that other people can't fuck it. Like I don't understand the movement.
But she's in relationships.
Yeah, so that's what she wants to do. She wants to date the popular guy for a spell. That's how she's getting her validation.
Yeah.
So I'm not judging how she gets her validation. Someone else is getting validation, but just by having sex.
But her validation isn't at the cost of a person. I'm just gonna have sex with you and not talk to you ever again.
I would argue Jake Gyllenhaal probably feels differently. I think probably feels like
They
he's
were in a
paid an enormous
relationship.
price for being in a relationship with her. And I would imagine John Mayer feels like he paid an enormous price for being in a
Well,
relationship.
she
So I think
paid a
there's
price too
real.
for being in relationships.
Well, no, hold on though. You just said, what about if the girl wanted a relationship and the guy just wanted to have sex? Is he a pig? She pays a price for that. I'm saying these guys that have been with her have definitely paid a big price.
So much to unpack. I think that clip says a lot about Dax's mentality. First off, he says Taylor Swift dating a lot of men, which at the time she'd had, many pretty long-term relationships. He equates that to men sleeping around, that's the same thing. Is it? Why is it a moral issue for men? Yeah, Dax, historically men have really gotten heat for sleeping around. Meanwhile, women get no repercussions. But shit gets really nefarious when he mentions Nicholas Braun. This is Nicholas. You may know him from Succession. And, Dax is saying he's getting in trouble for just like effing around and sleeping with people. No, Dax. He's getting in trouble because he allegedly likes underage girls. He was sleeping with underage girls, allegedly. But why would Dax want to say that men sleeping with younger women or age gaps at the very least isn't bad? Uh-oh, Dax. In the same podcast, he talks about when he dated Ashley Olsen. She was 19 and he was in his 30s. But he points out that she was much more worldly than him and even more mature. It's like she was older. He talks about Mae Whitman, how he met her when she was in her 20s, but she really seemed like she was in her late 30s. Again, he keeps pushing this idea that younger women are actually much older than they seem. But then we're getting really gross at the end. Monica, his co-host, rightfully so, is saying, I think the issue is how these men were treating her. She paid a price. And he says, I think Jake Gyllenhaal would say he paid a price. Didn't John Mayer pay a price? The false equivalency he makes here is very telling to me. Basically saying that they both paid a price, that Taylor, who was mistreated by John Mayer, who is known to mistreat women, she paid a price, but he also did, because the actual harm done to a woman is the same price to pay as the man who is simply being called out for doing said harm. Here's a fun fact. If he didn't want to pay the price, Dax, maybe he shouldn't have treated her so poorly. But why are we defending all of these men with horrible accusations? Why are we defending age gaps, saying young women are actually much older than they seem? Why are we making men the persecuted and injured party? Stay tuned for part 2, and please do watch my other videos.
Let me preface this by saying that celebrity couples that have been together for decades and decades, oh, this is our 15th, 30th anniversary, they scare me. They scare me. I just think at that point, everyone's just keeping each other's secrets. Point blank. Secondly, this is about the Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell 12th year anniversary post that she made, right? If you don't know, it's their 12th anniversary yesterday. She made a post of them embracing. The quote underneath says, "This is the same man who once said to me, I would never kill you. Most husbands have killed their wives. Even though I'm highly incentivized to kill you, I never would. Heart and tweet." Bitch, what? Nigga, what? Now, at first it seems like it's trying to be funny, right? And that just flips back to being highly insensitive to women that have lost their lives from domestic violence, abuse, murder, right? Right? When you really start thinking about it, she was getting so much backlash that she just turned off the comments. She didn't delete it. Because that is a cry for fucking help. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Remember the woman that called 911 and ordered the pizza? Remember that? Remember the hand signals out the windows now for people that have been abducted and trafficked? This is the new that. Go on social media. It's just a normal day. It's our anniversary. We have one every year, right? Right? And you post something like that. Why? So that if anything ever happens to you, we know. Kristen Bell goes missing. There's that post. Kristen Bell found murdered. There's that post. Kristen Bell shows up to Academy Awards with black eye and busted lip. There's that post. See? It's very strategic, but it fucking works. It also tells me that she never got over that. That she never got over him saying that shit. It ain't no ha hell funny. No, you were serious. You were fucking serious, and that stuck with her. Dudes like Dax Shepard and Ashton Kutcher that just been through the Hollywood mud and the streets, they're just not good guys. So yeah, that was a cry for help, in my opinion.
Because if you relate to this couple and it makes you feel good, it's because misery loves company. It's normalizing abuse or just self-centered men. And I'm really sorry. Don't hate me. Don't hate the messenger. She proposed to this man, okay? Like, I have made multiple videos on all these couples that refuse to get married because, they were standing with their LGBTQ plus sisters and brothers and they, them, non-binary people. They were standing in solidarity with them. Oh, baloney. I would love to think that was that was true. But the way this woman, as soon as that law passed, boom, she tweeted him, will you marry me? I don't believe that I would bet money that was the man's idea, because remember, Dax loves to stand on principles, right? And she goes along with it. And they justify all this because they're like, well, we're always going to be asked about our relationship, so we might as well tell everyone everything. You know what is a choice? To not answer. You don't have to tell people. We don't want to know this much. Y'all just keep at every opportunity talk about your freaking relationship, because that is their brand now. She knows he would never have a career without hers. So she has folded him into her brand. And let me tell you something. Do not do that. It's okay to post photos and talk about stuff every once in a while, but I'm telling you, Patreon is where I share all even my personal stuff. I don't want people in my business anymore. But also, I don't want my brand to be married Melanie. That is not me. It's a small part of my life. Again, whether it's either they're saying that their couple's goals or everyone else is saying, because every time they have a fight, this is the kind of comments people are like, I love seeing celebs be like normal people at each other's throats, LOL. We greatly appreciate the honesty. Just know your relationship discomfort and openness about it is cathartic for many of us. Why? Because misery loves company. That's why. That's why. When I talked about Ozzy and Sharon, the women who could relate to Sharon, I got trolled so hard. Love is love. La 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 la. Like, that man tried to unalive her. Among other things. He killed her cats. Like, this is Ozzy and Sharon all over again. This is The Notebook all over again. The man who you fight with all the time, who make sure that on a regular basis you're a pain in the butt. That's love. Because nothing will ever make these women leave these men. It's cathartic because this is the norm. And that's why a lot of women get so angry at me when I call this out. This man won't even wear a wedding ring. And the way they frame it in these dumb articles, the ultimate romantic gesture, he won't wear a ring. Okay, let's see how they frame it. Again, the internet's favorite couple. Okay, look at this. Now, mind you, this is how people justify it. We see them for who they are because they don't play games. They're too frugal for all that anyway. They don't like all the glam. They're too frugal. This is how they talk about like why their wedding was so cheap. They're frugal. Oh, really? And they're the nicest landlords. So y'all, these guys, they are landlords. Frugal? The man who has like 800 cars is frugal, but he wouldn't spend money on a wedding. Whose idea do you think that was? The princess, who's literally a princess in Disney movies and seems to love wearing beautiful outfits and goes along and does all his hobbies. Like, she's riding these dumb bikes all the time too. I'm not saying she never liked that stuff, but I'm just saying, I don't know. It seems like she's doing his hobby. So do you think maybe she went along with a cheap wedding? Because he's so frugal. He didn't want a big wedding. And he just couldn't be. He doesn't like wearing rings. I don't either, bro. Okay? I have ADHD. I hate things touching me. But I wear it anyway. Because I wanted something that was just symbolic, but like that would not annoy me. That's why I have like this ring. I hate jewelry. But what I don't do is be like, I don't know, I don't like jewelry. So I'm going to, he could have had it tattooed. He could have had a ring tattooed. No, he had one bell. Even though every woman's going to recognize him anyway, how many people would think he was married by a little bell being on his ring finger? Okay? This was a choice to be like, I refuse to be, controlled with a wedding ring. So cute. That's how they frame this. But the decision to get a tattoo wasn't just a way for him to permanently show his love for his wife. Yeah. Because, you could take off a ring, but a tattoo's forever. So that's more commitment, even though it's a bell, not a ring. He literally said, I just don't like jewelry. Conveniently, her last name's an object, so easy. She doesn't have any tattoos, though. She said it's because he doesn't like women with tattoos. Maybe that was a joke. I don't know. Look how Shepard win for the Nobel Prize. Okay, did AI write this years ago? Nobel. It's like a joke. Okay. The Nobel Prize for Best Husband. Tattoo's sweet, okay? This is how women justify the worst behavior for men. We can reframe the most ridiculous thing and be like, that's because he cared. It starts when we were girls. Oh, he pulled your hair because he likes you. He terrorizes you at school because he likes you. And she's always wanted a tattoo, but, her husband doesn't like the girls with tattoos. What he likes about her most? Her impenetrable kindness. Men who are this needy and selfish love a kind woman. Loyal, self-abandoning, really. Again, she fell in love with him before he fell in love with her. Even this, they couldn't wait to plan a big ceremony for their wedding. They went to the courthouse and spent $142 on their big day. Now, tell me you think that this was her idea. This is her wedding dress. And in fact, this is one of her own posts saying, like, when she was celebrating their relationship, the passive-aggressive digs from the both of them are unhinged. And she was like, remember when you made fun of me in our wedding photo? This is how it starts. This is how it ends, y'all. But it ends much worse. There's this post right. To the man who mocked me in our wedding photos because I cried too many tears of joy. Now, I don't like the wedding industry and like how much I hate the wedding industry. I didn't even want to wear a dress to my own wedding. I have never been like, I can't wait to get married. I never honestly thought I would get married. I definitely have never envisioned a wedding dress. All right, so I almost didn't wear one because I don't care about that stuff. But you know what? And actually my husband was really into it. He was like, he's so cheesy. And you know what? I did it A, for him, but B, out of respect for what we were doing, right? I was like, you know what? I can make this special because it is a big deal. I actually care more about the party. I wanted to like hang out with our friends and just have a great party, but I didn't care because I've never been like a girly girl. But you know what I did? And it felt good. I felt nice that day. So it's fine if both of you don't give a fork about the wedding and you decide to do all this, but somebody who proposes to him and who loved him first, right away, month and a half, who is who is chasing him basically. You will never convince me that she wanted a wedding like that. This woman right here, you will never convince me that she wanted to look like that on her wedding day. Like, come on. Now, before I go into more about him, just to remind you, they are experts at branding. Although they really, they somehow get people to spin every crazy thing they do into like, wow, how great they are. They are landlords. Oh, but they waived 1 month of rent. 1 month during the pandemic. And now they're like great people for having all this property. Okay. And people didn't even know they were landlords until they found out this generous thing that they did. April, great, thanks. But this move is bringing smiles and less stress to me. Okay. They're all about charity and caring. My ass. They own at least 2 apartment buildings in Los Angeles. Oh, but they don't have a mansion. Oh, okay. Yeah. because garage is probably bigger than their house. I did a whole video on men's garages and how much this is financial abuse. Their literal garages are bigger than their own home, and definitely bigger than all their children's rooms combined usually, because it's got to fit all these toys. So, okay, you're not living in a mansion, but I bet you could buy like 5 homes if you added up all the money this man spends on those damn motorcycles and cars and stuff and boats and RVs. Like, that investment property, and like, look at this. Okay, so these people have plenty of money, but you need a lot of money when you have an addiction to that many recreational activities. He also got a vasectomy without telling her.
How did Kristen Bell end up with somebody like Dax Shepard? And it's because there was this phenomenon in the early 2000s or mid 2000s where awkward, insecure, immature boy meets this cool girl that changes his life and makes him feel more comfortable in himself. I think that encapsulates Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard's relationship perfectly. Bunk, she brings fun. You can tell by the characters she portrays in TV shows, like for example on The Good Place. She just brings a certain vibe and energy to her set, even though I don't know her personally. And then there's Dax. You can see he doesn't have anything to bring to the table, which is what's making him so insecure and what's making him demonstrate that he hates her in public. And she's able to make these jokes on her anniversary post, which is supposed to be sweet. But like, it shows that Kristen fell victim to this cool girl thing and dragged it out for decades, because she's now making jokes about her partner wanting to end her. And she thinks it's funny and she thinks it's cool. She thinks it's just an inside joke. She's perpetuating a cycle in doing so. And I think Dax's lameness has rubbed off on Kristen, because I didn't know about their relationship. Like, I knew that she was with him, like, through the face, but I didn't know about him personally. And now I know about him. It's changed my perception on Kristen Bell as a whole, because I didn't think she'd ever be with somebody as lame as Dax.
Let's jump into my favorite part of all of the content I post on YouTube, and that's just my thoughts, where I get to kind of express what I feel about whatever we have read or gone over. So let's get into it. So I wanted to talk about this couple because I think they are the poster children for very problematic behaviors that many of us often see with people that we love, friends that we've had through the years, friends that we may still be in a relationship with, but we've distanced ourselves from because it's so triggering, or it's just so traumatic and hard, but you stay close to them more to keep them safe than anything else. And that couple is Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard. So they recently celebrated their 12th anniversary, and there was a very disturbing post that she put up with things that he said to her. So let me run it back. So Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard are both actors in Hollywood, and he, to me, has always come off as just not a likable person. Like, he says the most audacious and humiliating things about her, where Kristen Bell was, she's a cute little white girl. I mean, white woman. She's a cute little white woman. I mean, she's petite. She got the blonde hair. She got the blue eyes going on. She can play the girl next door very well. She seems to have a lot of mothering energy. She seems to be likable. And I've seen a couple of her things, including her new Netflix series, Nobody Wants This. Kind of funny. And I have enjoyed it so far. I got to watch the second season. And, she's, going along. She is married to this man that is just not likable. Like, his podcast and the things that he says are so predatory, misogynistic, red pill, like extremely problematic. So she's been with him. She's been married to him for 12 years. They've been together longer. And he just, to me, seems like he's always been trying to bring her down. And we've all seen this dynamic. And I think a lot of it, from what I'm observing, I don't know these folks. From what I'm observing, I believe a lot of this comes from his jealousy of her and how much people are drawn to her and just who she intuitively is. So in the post, she was saying in a recent, I think it was on IG or whatever social media platform it was, she was saying they are celebrating their 12th anniversary. And she's like, this from a man who once said, and she put it in quotation marks, which means this is an exact quote of what he said, something that he could kill her and he would never do it. But even though he's highly incentivized to do it, to me, that is a cry for help. That is terrifying. And the fact that she is still with a man who has who has verbalized those things. And let's be clear, if somebody were to say that to you, they've been thinking about that. So men's jokes, because he would call it a joke if she would react, or if anybody else would react, it's just joke. It's what a lot of men say to negate responsibility for the words that have come out of their mouth and accountability for the words that have come out of their mouth. If so he would play it off as a joke. As I've said many times before, men's jokes are threats. Men don't joke. They do not know how to joke without punching down. It takes a very nuanced way of thinking and flowing. So there are some men that, of course, can make jokes, but most men make jokes by harming somebody else at their expense. It could be physically, could be trying to humiliate somebody, it could be threatening somebody. It is usually across the collective of men, no matter what racial background they're from, their idea of a joke is causing harm to someone else. So for him to have said that statement and her to post it on social media, I personally think she just wants to let everybody know kind of what's going on. And if something happens to her, look at him. But to relate this into real life relationships, I think all of us at one time or another, and probably still do have friends that do, may be in this situation, have friends that are just lovely, lovely people, wonderful people, giving, warm, caring, and they have chosen the most audacious, ridiculous, offensive partners, right? And their partner is, you think that, they're a little bit of a loose cannon in the sense that, yeah, I could see him doing something to her. I could see him harming her in some way because he is so damn jealous of who she is and how she shows up in the world. And that's exactly the vibe I get off of Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard. Now, I think that, he has been made to feel totally comfortable in saying and doing the things that he does on, on his podcast. He has tried to really push the narrative and champion for dating younger women, because he dated younger women, before he was married. He dated one of the Olsen twins when she was 19 and he was in his 30s, just to give you a sense of like how this guy's mind works. And I know we have all encountered this dynamic with someone we loved, being in a relationship with someone like Dax Shepard. So then the question always flips to, what do you say to your friend to get her to see the things? And this is the reality. They see the things. I highly doubt in most cases that the woman in this type of relationship don't see the things that their friends and families are talking about or inferring that may be going on. It's that, I think it's twofold. I think there's a deep insecurity about being single since they have invested so much time with this person. Kind of a sunk cost fallacy is part of it. And they don't want to be alone. But the other side of it, I also believe, is that they're not going to be wrong. They've heard so much negative pushback and feedback about their partner and how they're not the right one, about how they're not the right fit, etc. They just aren't going to be wrong. So their ego and their stubbornness, from my personal experience and many clients I've worked with who have had to deal with these types of situations with a friend, is keeping that friend in that relationship, which further validates that partner being terrible. And I think that's why Dax Shepard was very comfortable saying what he said. But and maybe something specific happened where he brought it back up, and that's why she felt the need to put it in her post. For a celebrity to post something like that, for anybody to post something like that, people need to see what she's doing. It's a help message, or at least a hey, pay attention message. But how do you go about continuing maintaining a friendship with someone, or a relationship if they're a family member, with someone who's choosing to be in a relationship that terrible? I would say strong boundaries is the first thing, because that is so imperative and important. You have to have strong boundaries about your peace, about your time, and about yourself. Do not allow that friend who is the Kristen Bell in the situation to come to you crying and belly aching about everything that their man did and how he's acting up and things he said, because inevitably you're going to say the wrong thing. Or if you don't say the wrong thing, you are going to grow to be resentful for allowing that friend to take up all your time with mess you've already told her she needs to let go of. So have very strong boundaries around your time. And even to the point, depending on the situation, you may have to say, hey, any discussions about him are completely off the table unless it is you telling me you are ready to leave that relationship, right? And you need help figuring it out. And I'm only going to do that once or twice. So very strong boundaries around your discussion topics and around your piece and about what the time that you're willing to spend with this friend to deal with any of her relationship stuff. The second thing is to understand what's going on. You know that your friend's partner is trash, and your friend knows it too. They're just not willing to act in accordance to that and let that person go. And that's their prerogative. So you need to have the awareness to say, hey, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody's grown, and be accepting that they want to be in that situation. I would say the third thing that you really need to do in order to maintain a relationship with that friend that's like Kristen Bell, who has a partner like Dax Shepard, is this also goes along with boundaries, is kind of limit your exposure to that partner. For instance, if you have things at your home or, invite your friend out somewhere, you may say, hey, he can't come because it's all girls trip. Now, I wouldn't say be targeted, but be consistent and kind of limit your exposure to that partner because it's just going to get under your skin and piss you off. So there are ways to maintain, and you probably want to also, out of, concern for the safety of your friend, maintain a relationship with the friend who's in such a terrible relationship, but you can do it in a way that doesn't drain you. And one of the biggest things is putting up that boundary about what you all can discuss and how much time you, if any, spend discussing about that terrible partner your friend has. That's not your job. That's not your job to worry about. That's not your job to fret about. That's their choice, and you can respect their choice, but be very honest with him and say, he is not a good person. He's not of great character. I don't think he's the best fit for you, but you like him, so I can respect your choice. But I intentionally limit my exposure to that man because I don't like him. He, gives me. So honestly, at the end of the day, you have to understand that there's nothing romantic or edgy about a partner who jokes at your expense, especially when those jokes target your safety, your sanity, or your self-worth. Emotional harm doesn't always arrive with bruises. Sometimes it shows up as sarcasm, backhanded comments, and public humor that chips away at your confidence over time. If you've ever found yourself shrinking to protect someone else's ego, take this as your sign to pause and reevaluate what love should actually feel like. Real partnership is grounded in safety, respect, and mutual admiration, not fear disguised as banter. If you're ready to start unlearning the patterns that make this kind of behavior seem normal, come join my exclusive coffee community for guided journaling prompts, EFT tapping sessions, and a host of other tools to help you set emotional boundaries that protect your peace. Because healing doesn't begin when they change, it begins when you do.